Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Another Parenting Perspective. This podcast talks about ways we can strengthen the parent child relationship through the process of parental evolution. I am Smriti Gopal, an educator, a conscious living coach, a conscious parenting coach, and a present moment awareness coach. I really hope this podcast supports you as you go along parenting. This episode talks about how we parents can show up consciously for sibling rivalry. When we parents choose to have more than one child, this is what usually is going on in our heads. We want to provide our children with companionship. We envision a time when our little ones will share everything with each other, defend each other against their bullies, and we expect them to be literally BFFs, best friends forever. This may be the case in some moments, but it certainly is not the case always. Any of you who have more than one child know what I'm talking about. The reality, however, is that when we are parenting two or more children, we are dealing with different personalities and temperaments. We are dealing with developmentally maturing beings. There is bound to be some competition, jealousy, and resentment. There is going to be fights, and sometimes these fights can make you feel like you are in a boxing ring. So, what can we parents do? How do we sow seeds of peace in this battlefield? The first step is to look at this fantasy we had when we chose to have more than one child and accept the reality. Only then can we go about helping our children be more like friends and less like mortal enemies. Let's talk about sibling rivalry. To begin with, sibling rivalry is the ongoing conflict between children raised in the same family. It is yearning for power, validation, autonomy, and to be seen as a sovereign being by the parent. Sibling rivalry is normal as we humans are designed for survival. Normalizing it is essential before we go about doing anything about it. And when you normalize something, you approach it with more compassion than you would when you think it's something that should not be happening. Sibling rivalry might look like this: verbal or physical fighting, name calling, tattling and bickering, being in constant competition for parental attention, voicing feelings of envy, and many more ways. Let's be honest, sometimes we pick a fight with the ones we spend our lives with, the ones we live with 24/7. That's what happens with siblings too. However, things may escalate quickly because these little beings are still learning self regulation and conflict resolution. When we have two or more children, sibling rivalry is a part of their growing up. Accepting this will help us show up with more presence and compassion to the rivalry. Sibling rivalry is really inevitable. It is going to happen whether you are around or not. However, there is a way in which we play a role in this sibling rivalry. So let's talk about that. Our role is not to judge, but to point out commonalities between the children and the strengths of each of the children. Our energy has to be that of mediation rather than that of a judge who passes a verdict. When we do this, we rob our children of the opportunity to learn conflict resolution. It's important for us to hear both sides and identify core frustrations and the core vulnerabilities in each child. Stay steady and grounded ourselves. It really helps when we validate the goodness, the feelings, and the needs of each child. This is what makes them feel seen, heard, and understood. Even if we don't agree how they did it, we need to agree on why they did it, because that is really their personal feelings. And acknowledging their feelings is a very important step in being that coach in the sibling rivalry. Intervene if necessary, but uphold home rules and coach without making anyone wrong. Here are some facts about children which will help you while you navigate sibling rivalry. Children can advocate their needs with respect for the other person. Knowing this will help us take a step back and allow the child to take care of the situation. They can gain skills to navigate the world of human relationships. Our job as parents is to provide them the opportunity. Children can defend themselves. If we don't believe this, we are going to jump in to help them and become that peacemaker. If we see them as defenseless, we are creating a victim and bully ourselves. Certain parental behaviors can escalate sibling rivalry, and they are as follows: constantly praising one child while criticizing the other, pitting your children against one another in competition, assigning specific family roles or labels, like we say, oh, so and so is the entertainer in our family. Seeing, understanding, and hearing with more attention to one child's needs and interests while ignoring or giving lesser attention to the others. Comparing two children. It's never been helpful. When your children do get into a fight, here are some tips on what you can do. Stay out as much as possible. This experience is teaching them skills to resolve the conflict. If you jump in as the peacemaker, you're robbing them of this opportunity. Children learn conflict resolution by watching conflict resolution in action. So, what is the place of conflict resolution in the home that these children live in? Be a coach, not a referee. Avoid taking sides. Encourage the resolution to be a win-win situation. Set limits. For example, if a child is hitting, you say use your words, not your hands. Be a witnesser. Remember, fair is not equal. This is very important to know because each child comes with their own set of needs, and fulfilling those needs is what is our parental responsibility, not fulfilling the needs which we assume that the child has. So, tuning in to the child is extremely important. Prioritize one-on-one time with each child. This will make them feel seen, heard, and understood, and also will send home a message that they matter. It's important to also let them know that we are in this together. It means that it's not two children against each other, it's two children against a conflict. And this way we work as a team, and the children are able to be there for each other. Give everyone space to be who they are. When they are not given the space, that is when they demand it in ways that are not healthy. We parents need to remember that it's really not about us. Taking it personally is not helpful. It's only going to take us into our own wound and aggravate the situation into something else. Creating justice for one will create lack for another. So it's important for us to weigh what does justice mean for each of the children involved. There is always a solution that is not diminishing. There's no way we can diminish any child in this process. Shame and blame increases sibling rivalry. In the fear of conflict or in a way of avoiding conflict, if we start sweeping the incident under the rug, it perpetuates the sibling rivalry. We have to work on it at an appropriate time after the cool-off period. Now in your living room, there is a raging war between the siblings. So what do we do? If it is a physical fight, the first word that needs to come out of our mouth is stop. And do not say anything until they stop. Remember, we are coming to this with a self-regulated nervous system. So we are not agitated and reacting, but we are responding. Then ask both the children to tell you their perspectives. Let them get it off their chest first. Truth does not matter at this point. You're just listening to their perspectives. No repair can happen until the offload happens. First is the cooling off period, and then only we can work things out. And remind the child that has broken the house rule by reiterating the rule. For example, if the child has hit his brother or sister, you say, our rule is no hitting. You've informed, you've reminded. Then give an approved action, because children may not have an approved action in their mind. What you can do is to tell her to not pull the book from you. So you've given them an option. Punishing and timeouts escalate sibling rivalry. Time-ins help sibling rivalry because then we get to know them. Give them an opportunity to make a change. The very fact that their behavior is calling for attention has to be seen. And by punishing them, giving them a timeout, you're taking out the attention even more. So how can that be helpful? Giving them words like, I wonder what you can do to make things better, helps in this situation. Let them freely express and self-regulate by laughing, crying, and articulating it. We can at this point help them with self-soothing tools, which we probably are practicing with them at other times. You can't learn archery on a battlefield, so we've got to be working on these things with our children, like taking deep breaths. And then we can remind them, let's do that now, because emotional regulation equals behavior regulation. If you want ideas for these tools, please check out the playlist Movement, Music and Meditation for Children in my YouTube channel at Smriti Gopal. Convey the message that when someone says stop, we need to stop what we are doing. And we have, in a way, said this in our very first step. And they can learn this when we do the same with them. When they say stop, we stop. For example, if you're tickling them, it's a cool thing you're actually playing. But when they say stop and you don't stop, that means it's sending a message that sometimes you don't have to stop when they say stop. So it's important for us to walk our talk. Give them appropriate language. For example, they can say, it hurts my body. It hurts my feelings when somebody hits them or when somebody says something mean to them. By giving them the language, you're actually helping them from preventing to use their hands or their legs, because most often children tend to get into these aggressive modes when they don't know what to say. They're actually feeling helpless. So by giving them the language, we're helping them in that area. Children are mostly egocentric, so they don't really feel what the other is feeling. So we can help them feel what the other is feeling by asking, I wonder what the baby is feeling when you pinched her. Or we could say, look what happened, the baby is bruised. It's very important to say it in a way that we are not shaming or blaming the child, but we are showing that every action has a consequence that can hurt another. Give each child ample space to be themselves. Give each child age-appropriate autonomy. This is extremely important. If not, they are going to crave for it in unhealthy ways. It's very, very important to respect the child at all times. Both the child that is inflicting the harmful act and the one that is receiving the harmful act. They both need our attention and they both need our respect. If we have to follow all this that I just listed, it's very, very apparent that we have got to be working on ourselves. So here are some questions and pointers to look into in your own self-reflection, which will help you show up more consciously for the sibling rivalry. See your own relationships with conflicts. Are you afraid of confrontation? If so, find out why. Because these things add to how we show up to sibling rivalry. How was sibling rivalry dealt with in your own childhood? How did the adults in the environment show up to this rivalry with your siblings? Investigate and reflect on that too. What are the beliefs you carry about ways siblings should be based on your experience and these beliefs that were instilled in your childhood? Do you derive worth from your children getting along? Does it mean everything to you? We need to look in. Why is this making me worthy or unworthy? Do you desperately want them to get along? Why? Again, this is related to this worth that we add to our children getting along and taking it personally. Are you regulated during the sibling rivalry? If not, what are ways you can work on your emotional regulation? If you want to know more about this, you can check out my playlist, A Journey Towards Emotional Self Regulation, in my YouTube channel at Smriti Gopal. When our children experience unpleasant emotions, we parents almost automatically get into a fight, flight, fear mode, unless we are conscious and we are aware that this is happening. We go into a state of emergency, into a state of panic. So it becomes a priority first to regulate ourselves. Our children's nervous system is actually on the lookout for a soothed nervous system because their own nervous system is dysregulated and they would like to calm it down. This is what is called co-regulation. The most essential ingredient of co-regulation is a self-regulated adult. We all know that our children learn how to live life and how to meet different experiences and situations by seeing the adults around them deal with these similar situations and incidents. If we show acceptance in our ways of being, our children learn to accept each other. If we show criticism in our ways of being, our children learn to criticize each other. So look into how you show up and what is the way of being that you are modeling. The root of sibling rivalry is survival instinct. This is activated when resources are limited. Here, the resource that we're talking about is parental love. When we make sure that our children are seen, heard, and understood by bringing acceptance, understanding, love, compassion into our parenting paradigm, it goes a long way to prevent a small tiff from becoming a raging war. From my own experience of being a mother of two girls, I can say that when these girls got into a tiff and they had a heated moment going on, they definitely would approach for validation to say that, hey, especially the one that's right wants to be validated that they are right. And that's where it becomes very crucial for us to stay neutral in the perspective and still uphold our home rules and clarify what's okay and what's not okay. Being a teacher myself, I've seen this so much in our classrooms where children are looking at the teacher to see what he or she is going to say to make sense of the situation that they were in. Like, is it okay for me to do that? And that would be shown by the way we resolve conflicts, whether it's a classroom or it is a home. So children come to us to get that guidance and clarity on, I thought you said this was not okay, but is it okay? Like, they're literally clarifying with us. That's what I recognized whenever there was a sibling tiff going on between my girls. I also noticed that although they fought, but they were also bum chum pals and would stand up for each other when they had jointly done something which they had an inkling that it wouldn't be okay. So when they stand united, however rewarding it may feel, I found those were the moments we parents have to put on the detective hat to find out more. Showing up aligned and conscious to sibling rivalry whenever we can, because we are also human, I have seen helps them develop a healthy relationship with each other. As adults too, I see my adult girls now advocating for each other and being there for each other in especially the moments when they need each other. That surely strokes the parental ego. However, I remind myself it's not about me. The sibling rivalry was not about me, nor is the sibling harmony. It is what it is. Showing up consciously to sibling rivalry, however, opens that possibility of harmonious relationships. And it's in the nature of children to go through all ranges of emotions. It's for us parents to stay grounded in our essence, in our authenticity, and in our clarity when such situations arise. So, the way we show up for sibling rivalry consciously teaches our children a whole lot about confrontation, about conflict resolution, and ways they can express themselves, and a world of other things. So, parental evolution can go a long way in helping us on this journey. The way we coach our children when they are in the midst of a sibling rivalry is also teaching them a lot about the moral compass. What is okay, what's not okay, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, what is the appropriate way of behavior in such a situation. So, all these things are also being taught in the way we help in the resolution of the sibling rivalry. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you just heard, consider sharing this podcast with your friends. You can follow me at Smriti Gopal on Instagram and on YouTube. You can also follow me on my Facebook pages Formative Age and Equanimous Coaching. You can find out more about the work I do at formativeage.in and equanimouscoaching.com. Until next week, take that most needed pause to keep a check on the parental ego and stay present and alive to discoveries. Thank you and bye bye.